Hey everybody, they announced who the 14th Doctor is. The 14th Doctor is Ncuti Gatwa. Let's talk about this news because I have so many fascinating opinions to offer. Okay, so Ncuti is 29 years old and is the first actor playing the Doctor who is younger than I am at the point of being cast. Is this what life is now? Being constantly reminded of my age and mortality. Oh god, I'm aging right before my very eyes. No! Anyway, so apparently he was very good in Netflix's Sex Education, but unfortunately I will never watch that because I am genuinely allergic to teenage sex comedies and they make my throat close up. So having never seen a single thing he's been in, and not having seen him in the role he's set to play yet, because his first episode hasn't been broadcast yet, and I haven't watched his audition tape because they don't release that sort of thing to the public, other than to say he seems like a nice guy and I'm looking forward to his first episode, personally I don't really have anything of consequence to say whatsoever. And, to be honest, neither does anyone else. But as with every Doctor's announcement, we're all forming our opinions right now anyway for some reason. And I find it really weird that people are expecting me to form an opinion now. Like, even if I had seen Sex Education or anything else that Ncuti has been in, any actor worth their salt, which I'm sure Ncuti is, will form a fresh approach when preparing to play a new character. You can't really say for certain what they will be like in this role based on nothing, as is my case with Ncuti, or even in their previous work, as was the case with the last couple. I remember when Peter Capaldi got cast, it was this big reveal event and everyone went, oh my god, such prestige. Little stupid 22-year-old me even made a video about it at the time, jabbering on about someone who hadn't played the role yet, and whose other work was never going to be totally indicative of what his Doctor would be like, as if I knew anything. Was the 12th Doctor really all that like Malcolm Tucker? Really? Well, maybe a little bit, but no one could make their minds up about 12 based on, oh my god, I like the thick of it, therefore the 12th Doctor will be a good thing, go yes. Didn't stop everyone though. The hype behind Peter Capaldi's Doctor was huge, even though it wasn't really built on anything. And this worked in the opposite direction as well, when a certain subsection of the fandom had a meltdown when Chris Chibnall dared to cast a female Doctor. You don't know what they're going to be like until you've seen them do it, guys, and pretending otherwise is just stupid. So yeah, there just isn't really a whole lot for me to say other than congrats to Ncuti right now. So what I want to spend the rest of this video doing instead is asking, has anyone else noticed that the only time the wider media talks about Doctor Who these days is when internal production circumstances have changed? Last time that Doctor Who saw any major coverage was the announcement that Chibnall was leaving and Russell was coming back. Before that, it was constant speculation that Chibnall was leaving. But what was the last actual story that captured the imagination of the public? The one where Captain Jack came back and the Ruth Doctor happened? I mean, yes, Fugitive of the Judoon felt like a big moment for us, sure, but was it for the wider world? Outside of our little community, of course. Because lore changes are a very internal fan theory spawning thing, and Captain Jack was nostalgia bait. Same as when they cast John Bishop and Bradley Walsh, not so much famous for their characters as the fact that celebrities were playing them. And my point is, Ruth, Jack and stunt casting aren't stories, they're events. What was the last actual story that captured the imagination of the public? Because the last one that I can think of is Rosa. Love Rosa or hate it, everyone was talking about it the week it aired. It's actually quite rare these days that the stories the show tells us are discussed by the wider media and the wider audience, because, well, the wider audience don't really exist anymore. But even so, the news media still talks about it as if it's still as relevant as it was in 2008. Who's going to work on Doctor Who next? Someone said this about someone being fired, question mark? Which is kind of weird because people don't really seem to care all that much about what this show does anymore. Does anyone else feel like Doctor Who is more a celebrity gossip column than it is a show now? Like, is anyone really all that interested in what the actual plot of the Centenary special is going to be? Because the only discussions I've listened to and partaken in myself are about which Doctor Who related celebrity is coming back. Face it, the plot doesn't matter. We're all going in assuming it's going to be a bog standard Dalek/Master/Cybermen want the world, death, go bang or something. Because these big finale type events are always like that. They've been doing this sort of thing for almost 20 years at this point. This is what I really hope Russell focuses on going into the new series, because it feels to me like stories became a secondary concern for Doctor Who a long time ago. It's been focusing on name pull and big events instead of stories, and that is why it's been failing to reconnect with a wider audience that lost touch with it. It's not just because David Tennant left. Everyone always says the wider audience fell away because Tennant was popular and then he left, but I really don't think it's just that. It's because there just aren't really that many of those cultural touchstone moments where everyone's talking about it for the sake of a good story. Whenever Doctor Who gets talked about these days, it's usually lore change related events and celebrities that are famous already. It's not an original work of fiction that's done it. There hasn't been another Blink, there hasn't been another Empty Child. People tried to make the Nikola Tesla one a thing for a week, but does anyone remember all that much that happened in it now? Even personal favourites of mine like Oxygen weren't really celebrated all that much outside of our little corner of pop culture. I just feel like Doctor Who's not really a show that's made to be watched anymore. It just has to exist because it's still a media talking point. I mean, look at Legend of the Sea Devils. Barely anyone watched that, and that would be a sign of a show being out of touch and having no public relevance, but that's not the case at all. Here we are, weeks later, and a new Doctor being cast is still big news. Even though people haven't been talking about or watching the actual show that's being broadcast for years now. And people are going to say to this, oh, it's Chris's fault. This was going on during the late Moffat period too. The ratings discussion isn't a new thing. The show's decline in relevance has been going on for quite a long time now, and yet that hasn't stopped it being a really big deal when things change behind the scenes. And I will admit here, that's fascinating, isn't it? Any franchise that lost touch with the high-concept populist storytelling that made it famous a long time ago would have burnt out by now. But announcements of a new Doctor are still these big events. Doctor Who is still a very, very famous franchise. But is it a famous show anymore? Personally, I'm just thankful that something actually happened in a franchise that I'm vaguely a part of the fan community of, so I can collect a decent amount of YouTube ad revenue for a change. Why not like this video and subscribe?